Hello, and welcome back to the Life at Disney podcast. Here, we pull back the curtain and give you a peek into all things working at the Walt Disney Company. I'm your host, Steven. In this episode, we're speaking with cast members from Disney Live Entertainment who bring to life the performances and events at Walt Disney World Resort, Disney Cruise Line, and much more. I'm thrilled to have Saroya, casting director, and Ray, manager, talent casting operations, here with me today, who both have been with Disney Live Entertainment for over 25 years. Welcome, Saroya and Ray. As we get started, can you each just maybe tell us a little bit about your Disney career, where you started, and then it looks like both of you have quite extensive careers with the Walt Disney Company, so I'm really intrigued to hear kind of the steps that you've had over the past few years.
Hi, everyone. So what I did do when I did complete college is my degree was in television production. And my dream was to work more where I like to play. So I got a job in food and beverage, and 2 months later, I auditioned and became what was accepted to be an entertainer. So I did that. I became a trainer for new performers who came to the company. So I got to share a little bit of that pixie dust on their first days, and became a talent casting coordinator, working with a multitude of casting directors and booking directors before I ended up becoming a casting director in 2003.
For me, I started in 1986 with the company. I've come and gone a couple of times, but I started with what was called the Epcot Institute of Entertainment Arts back in the day. It was a very short-lived program, but started performing on the Castle stage as a dancer in 1986. I was a performer, a singer-dancer with the company for about 12 years or so. Started transitioning into other positions. I was what's now known as a maintenance choreographer. At the time, it was had a different title, but I was a maintenance choreographer for a little while, and then had the opportunity to join the talent casting team. And as a coordinator, I started working through all of the booking director, assistant roles, coordinator roles, and able to learn a lot there. I then went to Disney Cruise Line as a contract maintenance choreographer, so training all of the new casts coming in. Did that for 2 years, and then had the opportunity to support the talent casting team. At the time, it was just probably 2 or 3 people, but in support of Stacy, at that time was the senior talent casting director. I supported her, and then became a casting director in 2000. So I've been a casting director since 2000, and just recently stepped into the role of manager, talent casting operations, specific to the Disney Cruise Line project.
Fantastic. I love the amount of experience that we have here today, and such a cool areas. But you were both performers, as I hear, prior to getting into these casting roles. How do you think being a performer yourself has helped you throughout your career, specifically now that you're both on the casting side?
It's very helpful to have the background to understand how a show is put together, to work have been able to work with like opening shows and creating shows from scratch with the choreographers and the directors and those kinds of things. Having the background to know what our performers go through, and just in general in the industry, how performers live, show to show, that kind of thing. It's a very valuable set of it's very valuable information to have as we're working through our roles. So
I echo all of that. It's knowing what the day-to-day is, in addition to the skill needed in order to support that day-to-day. So you're looking for someone who can be a jack of all trades in this massive world of entertainment, because we have so much to offer when it comes to not only locally, but across the globe.
I love that. I think it is really important in a lot of different areas within our company for people who have that experience themselves to then be able to pass that on to the next generation. So Ray, your title is Manager Talent Casting Ops, and Saroya, you are a talent casting director. We use a lot of language, and language might even be different across entertainments or people's understanding of the entertainment industry. Can you kind of talk a little bit more about what you might do on a day-to-day basis?
So I just stepped into the role of manager talent casting operations, and again specifically to the project of casting Disney Cruise Line. I've been, as I said, casting since 2000. It has been, in the very beginning, it was kind of split between half of my life was Disney Cruise Line and half of my life was Walt Disney World, and that lasted for 10 years. And then it became very apparent that the Disney Cruise Line project really needed a dedicated casting director. And at that time, it was just one casting director dedicated to the Disney Cruise Line project. But as the cruise line has continued and continued to grow, that team has gotten a little bit bigger. We are almost at a team of 6. We'll be at a team of 6 by this time next month. So I've been happily stepped into the position of leading this team. So at the moment, not only am I sort of a frontline casting director still, but I'm also helping develop the team, coach the team, and make sure that they have everything they need in order to perform their jobs.
A day-to-day in my world is different every day. The biggest thing that we do on a daily basis is we look at what's happening down the road so that we can build a timeline in order to meet that deadline. And what does that entail? It's posting an audition, it's hosting the audition, it's reviewing the audition with your creative team, getting there anywhere from a thought in a show director's head to that first day of rehearsals. So a lot of what we do is not only plan for those types of things, but maintaining the shows and the parades that we have here on a daily basis. So a lot of it is planning, and you're putting yourself out there, getting the job done, finding the solution to the problem. So
yeah. That's totally true. Every day is different. Every day feels different. You're having to create something new for something new, create a new audition scope or something. So yeah, I totally agree with Saroya. Every day is absolutely different. And that's kind of one of the really cool things about what we do.
That's amazing. I know you just kind of both mentioned a little bit about the audition process. I'm sure it looks different for different types of shows or parades or different things that you're looking to cast. But I'm curious to know a little bit more about the actual audition process. What does that look like from the performer perspective, but also from your perspective? What does an audition look like here at the Walt Disney Company?
We all have the same goal in our auditions. We are looking for the right fit talent for the need. And it's looking for that person that has an organic connection to the material, also has the skill set, training, and experience that we need, again, specific to what we're shopping for. Although all of us globally have the same goals, Disney Cruise Line is slightly different from Walt Disney World, is slightly different from how Shanghai does it, which is slightly different from how Hong Kong does it, and Disneyland and Paris. So we all have the same goal. We have very similar formats in what we do, but are all slightly different just based on our specific needs. For the cruise line has main stage singer actors, we have main stage dancers, character performers of several different categories. We have restaurant performers, and we have shipboard actors. So each of those disciplines, I'll say, have a different approach to their auditions. For main stage singer actors, we do several different marketing tools. We do agent calls, open calls, actors access calls, which is, again, it's kind of an organized system that we use in order to get people into the audition. But basically, it's an actor singer coming in with their best 16 bars, being who they are, and us assessing their ability to fall into a right fit role that is available at that time. For dancers, Usually they're large groups. They'll be taught a combination in the audition. Usually there's a shortcut in the beginning to kind of clear the room to get it to the smaller group that you know could do what you need for them to do. Then they get a more advanced combination. Character performers, where we all have very similar approaches, yet slightly different. But for character performers for the cruise line, most characters have to have a basic movement skill. The cruise line doesn't have simple meet and greet performers. They all are in shows, events, happenings, deck parties, etc. So there has to be a minimum movement level. So we test their movement level as well as their animation level. And that all has to align with height ranges, silhouettes, looks for face lookalike, etc. So for restaurant performers, all of our restaurant performers so far for the cruise line are extremely specific characters. So we audition specifically for those roles based on those needs and those characters that are represented. Shipboard actors, very similar. Shipboard actors are basically comedians, to be honest, but it's very improvisational acting and the ability to take on several different roles depending on what the event is that they cover.
As Ray said, we all look for the same thing, but slightly different. And he's absolutely right. What would be equivalent to a cruise line's main stage actor, singer, dancer would be somewhat equivalent to what we do here with our Actors Equity performers. We look for actors, singers, dancers, comedic actors. It depends on what's being written at the season that you're casting it. Here at Walt Disney World, we utilize casts across all of our property in different things. You could be in a parade one day and in a show another. Within the character department here, we also have stilt walkers, puppeteers, the lookalike performers, etc. So really what it is in order to start an audition is, what are you casting? How are you posting it? What information are you providing in the audition post so that your candidate knows what it is they're auditioning for and they're self-selecting into something that they're prepared to do. And then you just wait for that day.
That's all very exciting to me to kind of hear more of that behind the scenes. So there obviously has to be a lot of great talent. We are known for our entertainment. A lot of great talent comes into these auditions. What might make someone stand out besides their kind of technical skills? You know, you're looking for someone in the right fit, and they might have that singing, that moving, that dancing skill set. But is there something else about someone who comes into an audition that catches your eye?
I'll say for me, it's, auditioning is a vulnerability, right? Putting your vulnerability out there and exercising a little bit of courage. Know at Disney, when we have auditions, we are on the other end receiving that, and we see that courage, and we are championing those folks the entire way. So really what you're trying to do is create a safe atmosphere so that they can feel confident enough to show their technique. If they mess up, we can still see beyond that. You know, it's just everybody in the room wants everything to work out. And so it's just putting yourself out there, exercising a little courage for yourself. Being an entertainer is also getting used to auditioning. And so we like to help that process along by making a nice experience for our candidates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, auditioning is absolutely a skill. And we know that sometimes, younger performers are just developing that skill. So we help them as much as we can in the audition setting. But something that I think a lot of candidates don't think about is, we need you. We need you to be good. We need you to be a hireable person. So we're on your side. We are absolutely on the side of the candidate for sure. Something also that we layer in is, storytelling. Disney hires storytellers. So no matter what you're doing, singing a monologue, dancing, even a character animation piece, it is storytelling. It is absolutely storytelling. So we're looking for, especially for some of those, what Saroya looks for those equity level actor singers, and for the cruise line, it's the main stage level actor singers. We're looking for them to organically connect to their material in such a way that we believe them and they make us feel something. So it's really finding those skilled actor singers who have the ability to transport you. And for sure, our character performers, that is their job. Their job is to transport our guests to another place and believably portray the characters that they've been selected for, trained in, rehearsed for.
I think a lot of people are really interested in the audition process, and especially at a place like the Walt Disney Company. I kind of want to transition a little bit more into your individual unique stories. Could you talk a little bit more about how you knew that you wanted to go from being a performer to taking that next step in your career and doing something a little bit more adjacent to performing?
So for me, the very first audition that I went to, that I realized there was someone on the other side of a table whose job it was to assess talent and hire people. I was like, that's what I want to do. I knew right from the very start that as soon as I realized there was a person whose job it was to perform this, position, I knew I wanted to do that for sure. And the staff here, the team here at Talent Casting and Booking and Contracts at Walt Disney World, where I sit as well, it's a huge staff of people, and everyone has come from very different backgrounds. It's those people who are lucky enough to find the path to get here and secure these positions. These are destination jobs. When we post for these jobs, there is so much interest. And I think there's a little misconception out there too about a little bit of what we do. I don't think when a casting director role is posted, I don't think that candidates necessarily look at that and realize it is a business. It is a real job. There are deliverables. You are responsible for deliverables. And it's not just sitting behind the table picking people to do fun things. That is, 8% of this job. The other 92% is all, business oriented tasks.
My degree was in television production. I love production. I love watching shows. I got my degree. Next thing is to come to Disney. The next thing from there was get to production. Well, the next thing that happened for me was going into training. And then when you network, other people will find out things about you, and you open up your mind to, oh, I didn't know something like that existed, or I didn't know there was a department for that. And so where I thought my path was going to lead me to the production team, it led me to sit at the table with the production team, but through the casting director role. What Ray said is also absolutely correct. Picking is one very small aspect of the job. It is all of those deliverables. It's negotiating. It's figuring out timelines. It's a lot of writing. So it really satisfied that production side in me as a result. And meeting the people along the way through the audition process is really the bonus and the favorite part.
I think you both touched on, there is this conception about, what a casting director does versus what you do on a day-to-day basis. I'm curious to know if there's one aspect of the job that you really didn't expect, and something that you might want to share to someone who's interested in taking that next step into the casting world, maybe something that they might not know about the role.
There is a lot of all the administrative work and learning a work style where you archive information, because at any time you could have an inquiry from a show director or anyone, your leader, asking, what did we do in 2015? There was that special event, and you become a subject matter expert on history, right? Historically speaking, this is what we've done. This is what we can do moving forward. So it's taking what you've learned and really not dismissing that even though an event has come and gone, we could pull that out again. And that you have so much say in how process works. And the expectation is if the process didn't work, taking that responsibility and knowing that you can change it. How do we make it better? That's one of the Disney things we do, right? We always find efficiencies and ways to make things work for ourselves and our guests, most importantly. And your head is in that mindset all the time. And you don't think that would happen, but it is.
I agree with everything Saroya is saying. I've had, kind of mentor conversations with performers along the way in my many years here. And I think sometimes their perception is, I can go right from being a dancer to being a casting director. Well, you have some of the background, you've got some of the skill, but there's so much more that you need to understand that happens. And the administrative piece that Saroya talked about, the ability to field different platforms, to create different reportings, to look at overall, budget and, numbers of people and numbers of auditions you're able to have with the budget. I mean, it's running your own little business. It really is. You're almost in your own little department of, I'm responsible for figuring out how Disney Cruise Line gets staffed for entertainment. So that's soup to nuts. Once we get confirmation of offerings and a timeline, it's up to us. It's up to us to figure out how we get the deliverable of, you will have 32 performers in rehearsal on this date who have been vetted, auditioned, cleared by the show director, criminal background check, medical background check, all specific to Disney Cruise Line. Everything has been done, and you have a full cast on day one of rehearsal. So it's our responsibility, regardless of where that full cast needs to be on day one, of making sure they get there.
I'll give you one surprising thing that happens. Seeing an audition and assembling a cast list, because you're like, of course, they audition. I'm going to put them on the cast list. And then they're not available, or they found something else and you're like, what? We learned to pivot, not just in dance terms, but in work terms. So
that happens more often than you might think. You'll audition somebody and, 5 weeks later be able to make an offer, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm not available. I'm like, well, I just saw you. What happened? So, but, we are, even though I think Disney does draw great talent, and we have so much to offer, we are still competitors in the market. There are still, other cruise lines, other theme parks, other regional theater that, everybody's still auditioning for. We're not the only game in town, and that's something that we need to understand as well.
Into my next question, I know, Ray, you've been with the Walt Disney Company for about 30 years and Saroya about 26. So that's a pretty extensive experience here. And with so many other options within the entertainment world, why have you really held true and been loyal to the Walt Disney Company? What is it about this company that you have such a passion for?
For me, it starts with the people and the type of people that Disney aspires to attract. And then every day and every year is different. Every project feels different. And you get so excited about hearing an idea, a thought for something, and bringing that to life.
I could pretty much just say ditto, but yeah, it's, the Disney IP is incredible. So the characters and the stories that we are able to tell is, nobody else does what we do in the world. So that's very attractive to me. The fact that every day is different, every month is different, every year is slightly different. There are always new, challenging experiences that we have. And then layer on top of that, being able to work with somebody like Saroya. Oh my God. The people that we have around us are amazing people, and the work relationships and the partnering between the team here at Walt Disney World, and then partnering with our team at Disneyland and Shanghai and Paris and Hong Kong. We are kind of all one big team, and we partner consistently. So the exposure to all of those amazing individuals too, it's really inspiring. It's inspiring to work with these smart, talented, driven, creative individuals from all over the world.
I would imagine with careers like you've had, that you've had some moments that are very rewarding because you see a project from its early creative stages and you can almost visualize these people already coming, bringing these characters and these stories to life. And then we have the opportunity here to actually see those actually come to life. And you see the people that you saw in the beginning do the actual performance. Could you tell a story about a moment that was really rewarding because you saw something through from beginning through its actual production?
I will say for myself, in every year you're wearing a different set of hats and you're juggling many of them, 17 different hats to be exact, is what it feels like, right? When we were mounting, remounting Phantasmic, that was a year and a half of production meetings for myself, 2 years for some others, but a year and a half of production meetings on a weekly basis on everything. And what happened was you knew what the previous show looked like, you knew what we were trying to accomplish in the middle section, and just really all the details in order to get the right talent into the room and auditioning people and everyone coming together again after what we experienced in the world. And to finally see it live, hearing what it was going to be, but then to finally see it live and to feel the response. I think I was at the first one I saw where it was fully put together with all effects, was the cast member preview night, and the whole theater was packed. And to hear the response throughout the entire show was breathtaking and so rewarding for me. So that was definitely, they're all memorable moments, right? Every time you bring something to life, that's definitely one of those big ones as of late that I felt my breath taken away, and I was humbled to be a part of it because you're like, wow, we did that.
The one thing, big thing for me that I still, it has been so special for me is when Disney Cruise Line produced Beauty and the Beast, a version of Beauty and the Beast based on the live action. So it was a bit of a different take of the story. An amazing, Broadway team who created a beautiful show that I had the great privilege to cast. And one of the special things for that was at the time, it just worked out. Like the whole team here was able to go to the port to actually see a preview of the show. So all of these people got to see this work that I did. And then, the later conversations of, wait a minute, you cast that? Like, yeah, that was me. I did that. So the kudos that I got from colleagues and people that I didn't even know in this building that I deal with and I see in the hallways every day, hi, how you doing? To go, that was amazing. It's great work, So that one, I think, is very special to me.
I just wanted to ask one final question to see if there's anything else that you would like to add for anyone who might be interested in either the performer side of the Walt Disney Company or the casting side or anything in between. You have a lot of networking around the entertainment world, lots of experience. What would you say is kind of that good advice for anyone who's looking to get into entertainment?
Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. We will make it a fun environment, a fun experience. Just keep an eye on DisneyAuditions.com and self-select into those auditions where you meet the basic criteria. And the whole idea is having a good time and putting your best self out there. So that's really what it is. The other thing that I would say is don't discount Disney as a whole for all lines of business, because we're called cast members for a reason. Every role puts on the show for our guests, and so you're contributing to that show no matter what you do here.
Yeah, it's for performers, it's practice, 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 right? Continue to study, continue to hone your craft. Um, know that coming into audition, what Saroya said, it's being yourself, it's being who you are and having a great time and allowing us to share that great time with you. It's a lot about that. For folks who are interested in getting in behind the scenes, gain as much, experience, exposure, and training as you possibly can. And you never know what's going to be handy, later down the road in your career. So, yeah, just as much experience as you can possibly gain along the way. Always ask questions, continue to ask questions no matter what you're doing, and just be the best you that you can be.
Well, thank you for getting to chat a little bit more about your experiences, your careers. Clearly, we are so lucky as a company to have both of you with your expertise and all the impact that you've had. I really enjoyed learning more about your stories, and I'm so glad that you got to share those with us today. So thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Our next guest also works behind the scenes with Disney Live Entertainment. Meet Jason, a producer with the team. Just like Saroya and Ray, Jason is also a longtime cast member, 20 years to be exact, supporting events such as Run Disney races, off-site activations, and so much more that we'll cover in just a little bit. Welcome to the show, Jason! I would love to start by asking you, how did you start with the Walt Disney Company, and what roles have led you to being one of our producers here?
Yeah, so hello, and first off, thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much for the opportunity to participate. So I started on college program, as a lot of people do, and I was actually a guest relations host at the Disney MGM Studios, and you have to tell me, which is now the Disney Hollywood Studios. That's where I started. It was a long time ago. And I came back to the company after that time, and I started working as a character manager at Epcot. And then I was a stage manager at Epcot. The Mariachi Cobre are the ones who taught me what little bit of Spanish I know. So that was a fantastic opportunity. And from there, I actually had a great opportunity to be the production stage manager for Festival of the Lion King. So super excited for the opening of Disney's Animal Kingdom. Once in a lifetime opportunity, great assembly of casts, crew, ideas. And then, of course, I think it's one of the longest running shows on property. So the guests seem to love it too. After that, I moved into a production management role as a production manager. And I was at Pleasure Island, which doesn't even exist anymore. Moved from there also to the sports team. And then, so I've been statused in every park at Walt Disney World except for Magic Kingdom, but I actually have had the opportunity to produce special events in Magic Kingdom. So I've been fantastically lucky in moving around the company. And I think that that's been one of the joys that I've had. And I'm one that actually left the company, but I did have the opportunity to come back to Disney's Animal Kingdom as a proprietor. So that's on the operations side of the house. So just to kind of differentiate, operations is once the event or project is built, it's actually handed over to a team that operates it on a daily basis and takes care of the cast and makes sure that it's meeting up to all of the quality show standards that have been established. So I've been on that side as well as the production side. And from there, I moved on to the Beyond Parks team as a producer. So that's where I am currently.
Nice. So you just said Beyond Parks. Can you explain a little bit more what that is? I think a lot of people do think of Walt Disney World for the theme parks, but may not know of all the different entertainment offerings or events that we host at all of our other venues.
It is exciting because I actually have responsibility for some of the things that happen at the sports complex, some of the things that happen outside of the parks themselves. So the four parks, which would be, of course, Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Disney Hollywood Studios and Disney's Animal Kingdom. Again, I've gotten a chance to work at all those places, which has been fantastic. But this is a new challenge, and I'm actually working outside of those parks, which could be resorts. It could be the Run Disney series, which actually takes to the roadways. I might be seen in a roadway or a parking lot anywhere around the Walt Disney World Resort. Actually, I also have the chance and opportunity to travel a little bit and represent the Walt Disney Company outside of the property. And as part of the Disney on the Yard portfolio is actually a piece of what am allowed to do. So I'm excited about that too. But anything that's not inside of BIRM, inside one of those 4 parks, that's what we would call beyond parks.
I love that your story kind of touches on every little corner that we have here. And that's very exciting to me. But I think a lot of people would love to know, as a producer, they might have an idea of what a producer does. But can you tell us a little bit more of your day-to-day? What does being a producer here at Walt Disney World mean?
Yeah, so just like you at home, every project or event has a scope, which is what is going to happen at the event and why are we doing this event? What is the audience for the event? Who are the key stakeholders and who are people that have a need to know what's happening, and then also who gets to enjoy it at the end of the day. So that's the scope. Then we also have to develop a schedule that goes along with that. And one of the base things is setting milestones, and then budget. So while we would love to have the sky be the limit, oftentimes there is a target in mind, and we need to make sure that we hit those goals and we are being financially responsible with what we had allotted to us. And as a producer, sometimes you actually have to go back and say, where can we find this money? This is a fantastic idea, but maybe it's different sections of the company would actually all have a vested interest in it. And it's collecting those people in those places and saying, okay, who has a vested interest in this, both for responsibility, for financial accountability, and they also might have different timelines established. So it's gathering all of those people together. And that's when it's fantastic, because it's all about collaboration. We know that it's going to have fireworks, so we know we need to have somebody who is a specialist in fireworks. We know that we're going to do a lot of talking and have a lot of music, so we need a music producer, and we also need an audio team. So it's pulling all of those pieces together and making sure that everyone is represented and everybody has a voice from early on in the project, to make sure that we're not missing anything. And then on a day-to-day after that, once we actually get into the process, there's a production manager who actually deals with the scope, schedule, and budget, all of the nuts and bolts. So they're actually the ones that are driving meetings and making sure that we move forward. And they're throwing alerts, hey, we're running short on funds, or sometimes there's a great opportunity where we have savings, and they're identifying those places. And what my job is to make sure that we are talking about that with all of the key stakeholders throughout the entire project, and making sure that everybody understands where we are. And we are always driving forward to the same goal.
There's so much that goes on in producing these events, and I think a lot of people who participate in these events may not know that. You're talking a little bit about a timeline of these key beats, right, that you have to hit for an event to be successful. For a large scale event, how far in advance do you start planning some of these things?
There are what we would call events that are remounted. So things that happen year over year, and they might have a shorter window. But I'll let you know that we had the Walt Disney World Marathon the first weekend in January, and we are already talking about the Walt Disney World Marathon for calendar year 25, and actually even into 26. We're starting to talk about what we could be looking at thematically for those events. So super exciting. And it starts with that kernel of an idea, and then to be able to see it through from that far out. And then, of course, there are other large scale projects, spectaculars and large scale shows, which we might be talking about for 5 years. Again, it's from the idea stage, what is the need? And the need has been identified. And wouldn't it be cool if we could do X? And then trying to figure out how to do X or Y and Z if X can't be done.
So you're putting in a lot of time, years into some of these events and some of these spectaculars. Um, can you tell us a story about something that maybe a project you saw from the very beginning, you saw it then come to life, and it was just a moment where it felt very rewarding for you?
Thank you again, because I get to talk about the Special Olympics, the 2022 USA Games, the opening ceremony for that event. We were so lucky to be part of that. It was actually held off property. So there were challenges in, we don't control all the space that we would normally control. But from the germination of an idea, again, with them coming in and asking for help of the Walt Disney Company, to all the way going through to seeing the flyover by the helicopters at the national anthem, and just seeing the Special Olympics athletes and all of the spectators and the television audience at home having a great time. Wow. I mean, just a fantastic, fantastic opportunity and a highlight in my career.
Yeah, I see that you've been with the Walt Disney Company, you said at different points in your life, but collectively about 20 years. Can you talk about what is so special about this company, working for this company, that A, made you want to begin with, but then also you mentioned you had a time away, you decided to come back. There must be something that you really connect with here at the Walt Disney Company. I'm curious to know what that is.
I think it's all about the people for me. It is a wonderful group of people that have been gathered and collected over the years that I've grown close to. The company tends to hire fantastic individuals who have joy. And then we get to tell the stories, and just all of those stories that we get to tell. The other thing that I loved about, that I do love and love about the company, is that we make products that people can enjoy together, no matter what age they are, and with their family, without their family, just with a solo partner, or even by themselves, sitting and watching the parade go by. There's something that I truly love about the joy that we bring to people, and watching their faces as they get to see the fruits of our labor. But also for me, it's fantastic because I have amazing peers, and they produce great product too. And all of the teams at Disney Live Entertainment and across the Walt Disney World Resort. Again, I was in guest relations, so I know a little bit about the operations side of the house too, and all for food and beverage partners. It's fantastic to have that opportunity to work with amazing individuals across the enterprise.
I completely agree with that. I want to touch on a little bit. You said you've worked on projects that are more operations based, and then now you're more kind of closer to the creative side, I would say. Do you have a preference between one type of work or the other? Or how did you make that jump also from working more in the operations to more of the logistical side?
So if I'm being honest, I'm like a 60-40 person, a 55-45 person, because I do love working with people on a daily basis and actually getting to watch their development. So when I'm able to work with other stage managers, and I can actually see them progress from, calling a show that's out on the sidewalk to moving through a parade, to going and calling those large scale spectacles that are on television. Super exciting for me to be able to see that. That's the part that I love. The people part of it is the part that I love about the operations side. It also happens on the production side, but the production side is I get to see a lot of amazing events. I actually am lucky enough to see some of the new technology that's out there. So that's always exciting. And my days are different every day. Even if I'm working on the same project, or a project that I have worked on before. Again, I mentioned Run Disney, and there's a marathon every year. However, I get to see a new side of it, or we're hiring different talent, or I'm actually seeing new faces that are enjoying the end product. For me, it was actually having a solid grounding in the operational side that has helped me make that jump, because I also try to think about, how am I leaving this? How am I handing this over to somebody so that they can take care of the project and meet all of the standards, and I'm leaving it in a great place for them to be able to take care of it, because it continues on for 20 years after the fact. So we need to make sure that it's a solid product and they have what they need.
You had briefly mentioned earlier you've worked with Disney on the Yard. Uh, do you mind talking a little bit more about that and the company's initiative to really look at what does our future talent look like out there in the world? What does a cast member from a diverse background bring to the company? And where is the company moving towards? And how do you support that in the production side?
Talking about Disney on the Yard from the production side, I actually am, as the producer for the program, the part that I'm the most excited about with the Disney on the Yard program is it is truly authentic. We travel to historically Black colleges and universities, and I get to be part of that by highlighting those stories with performances by drum major Mickey Mouse and appearances. And we actually get to reach people that may or may not have an opportunity to see us here on property, or we get them excited enough that they want to make sure that they do get to see us here on property. Those are both fantastic opportunities. Again, that's a fantastic opportunity and just another way that we're reaching out, as well as to retain people that are here and making sure that we're telling everybody's story.
It's so important, and the company has put in a lot of resources into making sure that the people who work here and the people who visit here are coming from all these different backgrounds. So I love that you've gotten to play a part in that as well. What are the first steps that I might be able to do to actually pursue a career within entertainment at the Walt Disney Company? And what would you say to someone who came to you and asked you for that advice?
I'd say, and this has been one of the things that I would tell people as they start their journey, or if they're already here, is to kind of bloom where you're planted. Always do the best job that you can, always deliver, and just learn as many things as you can at each position that you're in, as well as take the opportunity to get to know the people around you. Because as you mentioned, and as we talked about before, there are so many opportunities that I would always suggest talking to people. So I would say bloom where you're planted, and then also take advantage of the opportunities that are posted online through the jobs website, and then the professional internships opportunities. College programs, always great too.
I also started on the college program, so I agree. As you look sometimes to bring all these different voices to the table, maybe in the production uh, flow of an event or a show or offering, other than kind of the technical skills in the background, what is something that you also look for when you're looking for someone who you think would be like a really great fit for a project?
For me, being largely on the event side of the house now, it's about flexibility and problem solving. So it's that positive outlook which will allow you to absorb those changes, while we really try to have things dialed in far in advance and well rehearsed. We do live in the event world, and it's fast and furious sometimes. There are changes, there are rain plans, there are amazing opportunities that pop up at the last moment. It's just about having those plans in place so that everybody can succeed and know the plan up front. But I would say those three things are key.
You just said that flexibility is really important in working in those spaces. Can you tell us a story about an event that you helped work on that didn't go exactly how you planned and it still ended up being a fantastic time?
Just recently, we actually had a large scale rain and electrical event that was coming, and we could see it So we actually, again, we start planning the day that the Walt Disney World Marathon ends, is the next day is when we start planning for the following year. And so we probably had 6 months of work into this half marathon. Amazing course setup. We're having, we know where all of the characters are going to be. We know where the water stops are going to be. But then we get a call, we actually see and that there's going to be potentially have electrical activity. And you don't want to have 19,000 people scattered around the world, around our world. And without a clear place to keep them safe, because that's always our first priority. And so we made a fantastic pivot, but it's people sitting around a table and saying, okay, here's the new challenge. Again, let's stay positive, and here's what we need at the end of the day. Here's the new course that we have established. What can we take that we actually had somewhere else and put it onto this new course? We communicated what the plan was, and then the team collaborated to come up with what the new pivot could be. And it was a fantastic opportunity for us to still lay out that opportunity for our guests to tell their story. And they all got soaking wet, but nobody was in danger. But again, I think that the difference is it's the Disney difference. We actually have all of the right experts in the right places. We have an amazingly positive attitude, and we find a way to pivot and make a great experience, still a great opportunity for our guests to enjoy themselves safely at our world with capital W.
I know here in Florida, the weather can definitely change on a moment's notice. I think I kind of want to wrap up with one final question, Jason. You've shared so many stories about your incredible journey here with the company. Just one last thing for anybody who is out there and they are just really, really interested in what it's like to work for the Walt Disney Company overall, in one kind of brief, short sentence. Why Disney? Why is it been such an impactful part of your life that you've come back, that you continue to be here, and you continue to create these incredible events and moments for our guests?
I love the fact that we have the chance to be a part of so many stories, whether it's through people coming to enjoy a parade or coming to see a show. I love the fact that behind the scenes, there's this army of people, this legion of people that start with one little tiny idea. Wouldn't it be cool if? And we're bringing that to life. But then it's also the guests. The guests are fulfilling the other end. They're actually coming in and enjoying it, and they're letting us know how we've done. But again, to be able to see a family enjoy that together, or cross the finish line, or get a gold medal draped around their neck because this is a safe place to have fun, I think that that's the biggest thing that brought me back. And again, it's about the people that we get to meet, both from the cast member side as well as the guest side, just having the opportunity to talk with people. And I truly love what I am allowed to do. So it's fantastic.
I love that. I can definitely tell. And I think it's really refreshing to hear someone who has such passion for what they do. So I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your stories, sharing your truths with us. And thank you for all the joy that you bring to your team and to all the things that you do here at Walt Disney World.
Thanks to everyone, and thank you for this opportunity, and thank you to the cast of the Walt Disney World Resort and the Walt Disney Company.
If you liked this episode, be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about making Disney a part of your story, follow us at Disney Careers on all social platforms, or visit DisneyCareers.com. Stay tuned for our next episode, and see you real soon.